Chapter 1 Itachi, Knight 8 Swords. Gollum. The spirits enter the throat, and the spicy sensation extends from the lower abdomen to the lungs. A warm current makes the cold in winter no longer lingering. Hiccup. The boy let out a long sigh of relief and leaned comfortably on the stone behind him. Closely, it's not a standard Shota template, and the long hair looks particularly elegant, but the scars on the face look a bit destructive to the beauty. But according to the words of the teenager, the scars of men will add wildness and charm. Aside from a clean martial arts uniform and a saber attached to the side, only the presence of the wine gourd was abrupt. From the young man's point of view, taking a sip during the winter practice period is the greatest enjoyment in this world. Bajian, children can't drink. Beside the boy, a cute boy who should not be mature at this age frowned and stretched out his hand, as if he wanted to stop the other party's behavior, but finally gave up. The nasolabial lines on his face moved slightly, and he finally sighed. His name is Uchiha Itachi, and he is 5 years old. The boy next to him was a friend he met when he was practicing shuriken half a year ago. Knight 8 Swords. This should be what your mother told you. Gollum. After glancing at this magical young man, Yi Bajian took a sip of his own. Unfortunately, I didn't. Unfortunately, I don't have one. This is very free and easy to say, except for a little regret, there is no sadness. Itachi had an apologetic look on his face, as if he wanted to apologize. After all, in his opinion, orphans are sad, especially in such an age. Don't make that look. Yi Bajian calmly patted Itachi on the shoulder. It's not bad for someone like me. At least it won't be like you sigh and frown every day, thinking about things you don't need to think about, and then take a bite of the meaning of life. Aren't you tired? Sorrow, sigh. Itachi was a little embarrassed. Indeed, after practicing today, he sighed more than usual. Reason. Village and Uchiha. Ah. After thinking for a while, the nasolabial creases sighed again. Come on, have a drink too. Appropriately numb your nerves and let your brain rest. Trust me, this is the only way to save you from sighing. When the wine gourd was thrown over, Itachi looked at the other party with serious eyes in shock. He has already said that children cannot drink. And according to his character, even if he grows up, he will not drink this stuff casually. But when faced with the wine handed over by a friend, if you refuse, I am afraid there will be a little gap between the so-called friends. Will this gap affect my friendship with Bajian? After all, aside from Shisui, Hachiken is the only friend who can look up to him and speak his heart. The young Itachi brain was running wildly. Just from the wine handed over, Itachi thought of so many questions. Your greatest weakness is overthinking. As expected of him. Just looking at Itachi's twinkling eyes, Bajian knew what the other party was worried about. Shaking his head, Bajian was about to take back the wine gourd, but a tender little hand placed it on his arm, and immediately took the wine gourd. Really drink. Bajian's eyes widened, completely unexpected that Itachi would actually hold the wine gourd and shove it into his small mouth. Gollum tilde. With a big mouthful of strong urgotu into his stomach, Itachi's expression changed from calm to firm, then firm to doubt, and finally from doubt to panic in just 3 seconds. Ah! The shoulders trembled violently, and Itachi stretched out his finger to the wine gourd in horror. Yes, pure urgotu that is more than 10 times stronger than what Konoha calls sake. Yi Bajian happily took the wine gourd and explained. As a traveler, I am naturally not used to drinking sake from the island country. That stuff is no different from a drink. And this kind of authentic urgotu was just right for his appetite. Of course, I am afraid that this kind of alcohol is really not acceptable to people in this world. Ah! The angry voice made Itachi stand up instantly and run forward. He was going to get some water to drink before he actually spewed the grand fireball. What the hell is this? Just thinking about the smell in the wine gourd made Itachi panic. It's not that he hasn't secretly tasted his father's wine, and it's not of the same level at all. Looking at Uchiha Itachi's back in the rush, Yi-Bajian calmed down instead, raised his brows as if he had made a decision, and took a deep breath. Hello. Out an angry roar, and the snow-covered training ground seemed to stand still. Itachi Kai-Yuhi's face was attracted by the roar, and he wanted to see what his friend who was, desperately, trying to maintain friendship was going to do. Moth. The little snowflakes fell on his hot face and melted instantly, and the young man with nasolabial creases suddenly heard something. Nice to meet you. My name is Yi-Bajian, a man destined to be at the top. Reaching out his hand to shake the opponent in the air, the young man disappeared into the training ground with the saber in one hand and the wine gourd in the other. Really, friend? The hot Itachi gasped, finally nodded and opened his mouth hoarsely. My name is Uchiha Itachi. Please advise. Chapter 2 The King of Flat Cuts, Zaraki Kenpachi. Mitarashi, in island culture, represents the hand-washing place next to the shrine. Mitarashi only at the hand-washing place next to the shrine. Of course, there are no shrines in Konoha, but the surnames of the Mitarashi clan have been passed down. Speaking, the Uchiha family has one, but it has nothing to do with the Mitarashi family. And in this generation, after the so-called Mitarashi clan experienced the Third Ninja War, there is only one person left who still carries the blood of the Mitarashi clan. Anko, a girl 5 years older than Yabaken, just graduated from the ninja school. Whoosh! Just as he stepped into the yard, a shadowy figure swooped to Yi-Bajian's side. After staring blankly at Yi-Bajian for a long time, and sniffing the smell with his nose, Anko made sure of one thing. The younger brother who was picked up by her when she was a child drank it again. You. His waist and extending his fingers, Anko pointed angrily at Yabajian, as if he wanted to say something. Shish, I just told someone today that no one cares about my drinking. Glancing at Anko calmly, Bajian said, looking calm, his heart is still very warm, after all, Anko is his only relative. The feeling of being preached by a loved one. Should be interesting, right? Eight Swords thought so. It's just a pity that he figured it out wrong. The indifferent Anko didn't care about drinking at all, but angrily pointed to the forehead guard on his forehead, and there was a wine gourd that shook his 8 swords to the bottom. I agreed to celebrate my graduation, and then we had a drink together at night, but you drank it all alone. Do you still have my sister in your heart? Who pulled you big with shit and pee? Where is the conscience? So, are you angry that drinking doesn't take you? The corners of Bajian's mouth twitched. And, are you sure that a piece of shit and a pee will pull me big? Want a face? Does the 8 swords who crossed over need someone else to do this kind of thing? Others are embarrassed, he really doesn't have that face. Too lazy to pay attention to Anko, after throwing her a full bottle of wine gourd, Bajian returned to his room on his own. At this moment, stroking the saber next to him, a transparent template appeared in front of him. Host, Yi-Bajian. World, Hokage Ninja. Unlocks the King of Flat/Template, Zaragi Kenpachi. Unlock percentage, 2.8%. Template progress reaches 5%, the first flat cut blessing feature will be unlocked. The King of Flat Cut template reaches 10% to unlock the next character template. Flat cut points, 50 points, which can be used to exchange system mall items, or exchange template progress. Daily mission, swing the sword 1000 times, reward 0.1% template progress completed. As a traveler, he naturally has his own golden finger. And the super sacred King of Flat chopping system is the direct means to help Yi-Bajian become powerful, and it is also the existence of the King of Flat chopping system, which makes him very confident to say to Itachi that he is destined to reach the peak. The King of Flat cuts. No bells and whistles. Simple and rude, is to cut. And Yi-Bajian is very lucky, the first character ability to be unlocked is the famous King of Flat chopping in the world of death, Zaraki Kenpachi. Bleach World is fought with Reiatsu, using Zanpakudo's abilities to overwhelm the enemy. But Zaraki Kenpachi is different, he only has one move from start to finish, that is flat cut. Even Shikai and Bankai increase the power of flat cuts. The king of flat cuts through and through. This is the case with the king of flat cut system. The daily tasks seem to be very simple, but after all, he is still young, and it took a long time to get used to this kind of high-intensity training. From the beginning, I was tired and couldn't move, but now I'm just a little tired. This middle. He has experienced a lot and has grown a lot. 2.8% strength of Zergi Janba. That is a famous fighting lunatic in the world of Death God. Once he enters the fighting state, the terrifying combat power that erupts should not be underestimated. The daily task will be upgraded every other stage, and the effect is not known for the time being. He has never encountered a sudden task before. According to the system, a sudden task will reward flat cut points, and every 1000 points of cut points can be directly exchanged for 1% of the template progress, or can be exchanged for Rin in the system mall, a dazzling array of items. For example, Urguotu of Bajian is exchanged from the system mall. There is everything in it, even the Rinnegan of this world, but the price is not what he can accept. For the time being, the easiest way to improve your strength is to complete tasks every day. And Bajian also enjoys the feeling of improving every day through training. This is a dangerous world. Don't get carried away when Konoha is so peaceful. The darkness hidden in the sun is the most terrifying thing. Shaking his head, Bajian fell asleep. Slashing thousands of times in a row was not a small burden for him at the age of 4 or 5. The next morning, a new day arrived. Opened his eyes and looked at Anko, who was completely wrapping himself beside him, feeling helpless. How many years? She's used to it. I guess I went to the wrong room after drinking too much last night. Stinky brother, accompany me to meet the guide Jonan. Anko said, feeling pushed away. Your guide, Jonan. Orochimaru. Third chapter, Ninja Scientists, with snake pills. Itachi, you are so outrageous. The same morning, in the Uchiha clan's land, in the courtyard of the Patriarch. The atmosphere is obviously not so harmonious. Itachi knelt on the ground without saying a word, accepting a lesson from his father. But the stubbornness on his little face showed that he thought he was doing the right thing. Even if it is the blame of the parents, because the word, friend, can be carried down. After drinking that wine, he and Bajian are true friends. But he obviously underestimated the strength of Urguotu, and when he came back, he wanted to secretly find a sip of water, but he fell asleep in the living room. Just sleep until now. The wine is very strong, but the taste makes Itachi have some aftertaste. Nothing else. After his father brought him back from the battlefield, he hadn't slept so well for a long time. That's really cool. It's such a happy time when you don't think about anything. Sleep is so peaceful. Don't wake up thinking about the meaning of life. I don't even think about why my father's eyes flickered when he looked at the village. I couldn't hear what those people outside said about the Uchiha family. And these, he couldn't explain to his father. The only thing to do is to bear the blame of his father. However, drinking this kind of thing, it is better to do less in the future. Itachi knew this. Okay, that's all for now, I have other things to do with you today. Looking at the silent sun, the anger on Fugaku's face gradually disappeared. The wife next to her is still pregnant, so there is no need to blame her son, who is very competitive, in front of her. Ninja School is about to start a new round of enrollment, and I have already registered you. Remember, outside, you're representing Uchiha, representing a clan. Patted Itachi on the shoulder hard, Fugaku said. Yes, father, I see. Itachi nodded, the confusion in his eyes flashed away. I see. Do I really understand? I guess so. Why does a clan only think about a clan, not a whole? He doesn't understand. Uchiha, isn't it the Uchiha of Konoha? In a training ground in Konoha, 8 swords, one sword after another, repeated the action of slashing and seemed to be venting frantically at the stake. But judging from the frenetic look on his face, he enjoyed the mechanical slashing. Daily quests have been refreshed. And today's daily task, let Bajian very surprised. Flat cut 2000 times. Mission reward, 0.2% template progress. After finishing, he will use Master Zaraki sword to 80% of the strength. Of course, this master is very different from playing. After all, his age is here, and the strength that he can really exert is probably extremely limited. Therefore, it is necessary to exercise one's will and body with this kind of chopping. In Bajian's view, daily tasks are no longer a task, but a necessary condition and process for growth. Rao is so, his strength, among the children of the same level, there is no rival at all. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is invincible at the same age. So, why do you have to let me accompany you? Hachikan asked Anko, who was sitting on a rock with his chin up and looking at him. There is no doubt that Anko's teacher was Orochimaru. A well-deserved scientist in the ninja world. A man who yearns for immortality and loves to study ninjutsu. The value of Orochimaru goes without saying. After Naruto became Hokage in the later period, Konoha's changes can be seen. Technology. The trains are out, it's outrageous. You're stupid, Lord Orochimaru is one of the legendary Sanins. I'll bring you here. If someone takes a fancy to you and points you to 2 moves, maybe you can even take it with you. Anko flipped through Byakugan. This time, the 4 tails jumped out of her, and she really cared about her younger brother. Orochimaru. There are not many chances to get his guidance. Oh. However, as Anko expected, the ecstasy of his younger brother did not appear, and he did the task calmly. Draw a knife, chop, cut a knife. Repeat an action over and over. There was no fluctuation in being guided by the so-called Daishuan. Joke. Is Orochimaru's ninjutsu important to him? 8 swords with golden fingers do not need anyone's guidance. He is the king of flat cuts. No need for bells and whistles. As for chakra and spiritual pressure, there are also physical problems. After unlocking 5% of the Zengmu Janba template, the flat cutting feature enabled by the system will give the answer. This is what the system wizard told him. In short, he doesn't need any teachers. No one in this world deserves to teach him. Just keep hacking, he will get stronger and stronger, it's that simple. Good-natured. Suddenly, a cold voice with strong interest appeared. Bajian's hand holding the knife paused slightly, and then continued to slash repeatedly. Behind him, Orochimaru was standing there. Apparently, he had been here for a while, but he just didn't come out. Very nice kid. The tongue stretched out, licking it deliberately to make people nauseated. Uncle Snake's eyes were wild and dangerous, and he commented on Yi Bajian who was slashing. Chapter 4 Terrible Way of Training. The timing of Orochimaru's defection is unclear. But at least not now, but not far. Mitarashi Anko is a year younger than Kurenai Yuhi. After Anko graduated, he became Orochimaru's apprentice and received Orochimaru's teaching. In the same year, it became Orochimaru research stop and learned a lot. Even received Orochimaru's spell. That was the beginning of Anko's nightmare. Soon after, Orochimaru defected and used the forbidden technique to brutally erase Anko's memory. Orochimaru at this moment has embarked on a road of no return. Human experiments have also begun. It seems that after failing to compete for Hokage, Orochimaru started the latest research, and he has no shortage of resources behind Danzo's support. Yes. This terrifying, cold-looking man once wanted to be Hokage too. It is estimated that based on this alone, Naruto can jump out and point at Orochimaru's nose and shout, "I forgive you, just come clean." But this has little to do with Yi Bajian. However, Anko's spell is a little troublesome. That stuff isn't a good thing. Even as long as there is a curse mark, Orochimaru can be forcibly resurrected. Very top. Big. Orochimaru, Sama. Enko swallowed, seeming nervous. After all, not everyone can become Orochimaru's disciple. She also didn't know why the 3 generations arranged this way. Orochimaru seemed to lose interest after watching Enko for a day. In Orochimaru's creed, being a guide Jonin is just a waste of time. But he had to accept this arrangement, at least to give the 3 generations an illusion that he was busy, so that he could conduct human experiments with peace of mind. As for Enko's spell in the original book, it was just an accident. Even Orochimaru himself never thought that Enko would survive. The first survivor of the Curse of the Sky, probably this is the value of Enko. Whoosh. After stopping the slashing movement, Yabajian took a deep breath, and his eyes finally met Orochimaru's eyes. The 4 looked at each other, and in the end, no sparks erupted. In the eyes of the other party, Bajian saw a little interest. Come on, Enko. Licking his lips playfully, Orochimaru turned to leave. It's a pity. After all, Orochimaru-sama didn't like his younger brother. Enko sighed, the purpose of bringing his brother with him was still unfulfilled. She is a little dull. Couldn't see the meaning in Orochimaru's eyes. First time we met, according to Orochimaru's personality who likes to play with other people's minds, this is just the beginning. For example, after Orochimaru left, a small white snake squatted in the corner of the big tree next to it. If Orochimaru is really eyeing someone, he will be the first to observe. He is not as blatant as he was at the beginning of the story. This was also the decision Orochimaru made after observing the 8 swords for a while. It seems to be an ordinary slash, but every knife is unbelievably stable, and there seems to be no regularity in the randomness, but it makes people feel that at the moment of the slash, his knife is aimed at any angle. This is not a means that a teenager can have at his age. So, he was curious. Looking back, Bajian was too lazy to care. Just watch it if you want. Just don't be scared for a while. There are many ways to chop. And the system never insisted on letting him repeat a method, the hack just now was just a warm-up. After all, repeating a single action of slashing and slashing will inevitably be boring even if Bacon's mind is mature. He doesn't mind if other elements are added in the process of slashing. Now. He is waiting. Whoosh. A figure fell beside Bajian. Uchiha Itachi who slept so well last night. It's a bit late. Bajian raised his eyebrows. Sorry, Bajian. Itachi said embarrassedly. The conversation with my father took a lot of time. On the way here, I pondered for a while about the so-called clan and Konoha, the meaning of their existence, so I came too late. It's late because my father told me something about the ninja school. Ignoring what was criticized, Itachi directly referred to the ninja school. After winter, the season for the recovery of all things arrives, and it is also the time for the enrollment of the ninja school. Uchiha Fugaku has signed up for his genius son. Ninja school. Bajian was stunned. Ninja school, a magical place. Founded by the second-generation Hokage Senju Tobarama, the place where all Konoha ninja first practiced. You can learn the basics of some ninjas. But the biggest role is to use for brainwashing. Shaking his head, Bajian is not very cold to that place. But as the kid that Konoha was making up, I had to go through the motions. Let's get started. Without going to the ninja school, Bajian's eyes gradually sharpened, and he walked into the field step by step. At this moment, he was completely in a state with a knife. The fierce temperament on his body, combined with the scar on his face, made Itachi feel a strong sense of oppression. Nodding his head, Itachi took a deep breath, took out 10 shuriken from the package and pinched it tightly. 1, 2, 3. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, 10 shuriken swiftly shot from Itachi's hands towards Yabajian. Active attack. At this moment, the little white snake that emerged from behind the tree was obviously stunned. But what is even more shocking is obviously still behind. Waving his arms, the man with the fierce fighting intent on his face shouted with a knife. Ding ding ding. All the shuriken that were shot at him were directly chopped up by him. The most incredible thing was that 10 shurikens were shot at Uchiha Itachi again. What are you doing? Do you play ball? The little snake opened his mouth in horror. But obviously, the two people's cultivation is not over yet. Itachi projected the shuriken again and hit the first 10 shuriken in the air. Ding ding ding. Between the lightning and flint, the shuriken turned again and shot at Yabajian. The real cultivation has just begun. And the white snake. Already stunned. Is this their terrifying cultivation method? Bullshit. Still confident. He couldn't accept it. On the first day of the new book, I ask the big guys to take care of it, and ask for the evaluation of flowers. Chapter 5 Itachi, Jianzang, I can't do it anymore. Ding ding ding. When the two of them began to practice, only the sound of shuriken colliding could be heard in the training ground. That white snake, from the shock at the beginning, to the confusion, to the calm and finally numbness, left, no one knows what he experienced in the middle. These two 5-year-old children had too much impact on him and someone. Come to think of it, what was he doing when he was 5 years old? Read a book. Should be. Then he joined the ninja school and was taught carefully by 3 generations after graduation. He was almost 10 years old at the time. Although he graduated early, in front of these two people, he did not dare to call himself a genius. Are they really 5 years old? At Orochimaru's base, Enko was looking at the ninjutsu manual given by his teacher with relish. And Snake, suspicious of life, fell into autism when he looked at the books in front of him. He took out a pen and finally wrote 2 names on the piece of paper in front of him. Uchiha Itachi, Knight 8 Swords. After writing, Orochimaru suddenly became confused. The people of the Uchiha clan are good at shuriken and can smash back the flying shuriken. This is normal. Even the Uchiha people who did not turn on Sharingan are very talented in this regard. But what is Yabajian? Judging from his appearance, it is obviously not the first time that Uchiha Itachi has had such a terrifying practice. Even clearly has the upper hand. Why? Just a civilian. Frowning, Orochimaru couldn't figure it out. Jianzang, I can't do it anymore. Half an hour later, an unimaginable voice came from the training ground. Of course, there was no such popular hand-pushing incident in the scene, but in terms of results, it was similar to the hand-pushing incident. It's a sport carried out by 2 people, and one of them is still alive and kicking, and the other is absurd. That's not going to work. Ding ding ding. He slashed the shuriken in front of him again and flew out, but this time, the shuriken did not fly towards Uchiha Itachi, but all hit the bullseye drawn on the tree trunk next to him. Accuracy is too strong. You're so fake. Frowning, Yabajian supported the limp, panting Itachi to the stone next to him to rest. Is it virtual? Itachi was speechless, and Yuhi turned to Byakugan with a face. Compared with the 8 swords, he is indeed imaginary. At least others are still full of energy, but I can't. There was no way, as he became more and more tired, he could no longer see the flying shuriken, and the shuriken that was shot would also lose its alignment, and it would be meaningless to continue. And the man in front of him was a real monster. He knew this when they first met. At Konoha, Hachiken was the first 5-year-old to slash thousands of times in a row. He can be sure of this. Forced to rest. Taking out the wine gourd, Bajian sighed, and then handed it to Itachi habitually. After yesterday's drinking incident, Itachi was moved, but he didn't have the courage to pick up the wine gourd. My father just warned me in the morning, but now he naturally dare not. The atmosphere gradually became silent. Itachi didn't have the strength to speak. And Bajian was thinking about something. The white snake has disappeared, and even if it is, Bajian will not care. It's Itachi's body. Frowning, Bajian looked at Itachi. In the original book, this tragic young man finally gave his brother a wave and died. But even if he doesn't let Sasuke kill him, he won't live long. He was seriously ill and couldn't last long. But what kind of disease, or what kind of terminal illness, is not described in the original work? The sequelae of murdering father and mother. Suffering from a dark phobia. Bajian didn't know either. What is certain is that if it is really necessary at that time, he will find a way. He has no medical skills, but the system mall has everything. Just to see if it really comes to the crux, whether this kid still regards him as his original self and his simple friend. As for the meaning of these words, Itachi does not understand now. As Itachi and Oni said, people can only see themselves before they die. Weasel. With a flick of the saber in his hand, Bajian suddenly smiled. What's the matter? Itachi blinked, a little doubt on his cute little face. If you encounter something in the future, you can't solve the problem. Or it's a fork in the road. You can ask me. Paused. Thinking of the tragedy of this man, the Eight Swords sighed slightly. If you consider me a friend. Before Itachi died, he saw himself clearly. After being reincarnation by impure world, I found that it was a wrong decision to say that everything was on my own shoulders. Even Naruto who escaped with this theory. But in life, there is no regret medicine. Well, you continue to rest, my body won't allow me to sit here and be lazy. 2000 hacks today. Without saying anything to Itachi, Bajian continued his practice. And Itachi, who was sitting on the stone and watching the back of Eight Swords, was obviously stunned. If you treat me as a friend. What does Jianzhang mean? What does he know? I know. Suddenly, Itachi bit Kiba and looked at the wine gourd next to Bajian that fell on the stone. Is it possible? No solution anymore. Trembling and picking up the wine gourd, Itachi let out a long sigh. Gollum. ... Delivered on Friday on the first day. Ask for a wave of data, are you there, reader? Your presence determines whether this book sees tomorrow's sun. If you leave your valuable comments in the comment area, it would be nice to feed a flower. Chapter 6 The Budding Emotion, That Touch of Throbbing. He didn't do anything to you, did he? After a day of practice, Yabajian returned to his home with Anko. Although a little tired, but after breaking through 1,000 slashes and reaching 2,000 times, his whole person has sublimated a lot. Every breakthrough is a kind of baptism for oneself. Bajian enjoys this process. Before returning home, he fell on the bed to rest, washed his body carefully, and happened to meet Inko who came home from Orochimaru. Calmly put on Kabuto crotch pants, Bajian asked. The girl's face was slightly yuhi, her eyes swept around, and finally she took it back from Bajian. After all, living in the same home, this is not the first time I have experienced such a scene. But it's getting older. Women in this world are notoriously precocious. Example, Hinata fell in love with Naruto when he was 3 years old. Thinking about it, although something is wrong, this is the beauty of the second dimension. Anko is no exception. Now her girlish heart is overflowing, and it is the most beautiful age in her life. And the figure, in the early stage of the entire Hokage world, is also ranked high, especially at a young age. He knows how to decorate his wildness with silk socks. This kind of comprehension alone cannot be compared by ordinary people. As for the fact that Bo Ren Chuan became a fat woman, it can be adjusted and controlled, so there is no need to worry. When you say him, you mean teacher Orochimaru. A while, Anko asked suspiciously, hey, he's my teacher, okay. Do you dare to think healthier? Saying that, the girl turned to Byakugan. Bajian didn't explain anything. Just calmly walked to Anko's side, gently brushed his hair away with his hands, then jumped on the girl's thigh and stretched his neck to look over. What is he going to do? Shall I resist? Or resist a little and give in? Anko's face became more Yuhi's, like a freshly baked ball. But she obviously misunderstood something. Stroking the neck of the fair-skinned pink Yuhi, Bajian left her sister's arms after not finding anything unusual. A little too nervous. Taking a breath, Bajian turned and walked to his room. Naturally he was checking the spell seal. The evil force that changed Anko's life. The magical power that turns lively girls into autistic aunts. This time, he obviously won't let the tragedy repeat itself. Anko's life is very strange. In the early stage, she was the sturdy chief examiner, but she was beaten by Orochimaru. Later, she was just a tool to bring Orochimaru back to life. Kind of disgusting. Yi Bajian could not accept it. Changes are accumulated slowly. Orochimaru defected to Konoha without Anko, which hit her hard. Night. And just before Bajian was about to enter his room, Anko suddenly shouted. This time, she didn't shout the word brother arrogantly, and ordered something in the tone of an order like a sister. One night alone. Slowly bricking, Bajian's eyes are calm. Accompany me. Go eat balls, okay. After the scene just now, Anko suddenly became a little shy and overwhelmed. Even the tone of asking Bajian to accompany her to eat meatballs contained a little request. Few seconds later, just when Anko was a little disappointed, the boy nodded and gave her a positive answer. Good. Konoha's meatball shop. This is an amazing place. From time to time, some well-known characters will enjoy it after their tasks. Just like now. Pushing open the store door and walking in, Bajian saw several familiar figures. The first thing that caught the eye was a watermelon-headed man in a bright green sports suit. The future, might guy, who will be famous all over the world with one kick, will never leave his youth. The inside, Kurenai Yuhi was getting a headache from Sarutobi Asuma in front of her. After she saw Anko, she hurried over as if she saw a savior. Looking around, Bajian withdrew his gaze. He has no interest in seeing all the tricks. Finding a place to sit down, Bajian rubbed his sore shoulders. There were a few less ones with Anko, and they didn't appear here. Example, the innocent girl of Nohara Rin. Anbu ninja who fell into autism and is working as a bodyguard for the 4th-generation Hokage wife Uzumaki Kushina, copying the ninja Hatakeiri Jirixi. Speaking of which, Minato is a bit too much. He hopes to break through the haze in Kakashi's heart through the emergence of new life. But, are you really good at doing this? How sweet is it to let a person who has a dead father and a dead companion come to see your family? Isn't it too much? Sighing slightly, Bajian looked outside. The seasons in the Hokage world are very strange. It's already past New Year's Matsuri, and it's clearly the time of spring, but it's still snowing. It is estimated that at this time, Kakashi is still squatting at the window of the 4th generation, acting as a bodyguard for Kushina. However, when he said Kushina, there was a gleam in Heiken's eyes. The QB 9 tails upheaval is near. This troubled Konoha. Shaking his head, there was a hint of mockery at the corner of Bajian's mouth. As for who is mocking, no one here knows. It was because Anko and Kurenai Yuhi were sitting beside Hachiken, and the opposite of him was Asuma who was following him. This sarcasm caught his attention. What does he mean? Asuma's face sank. Well. Now, Gaga will be late, but never absent. The 6th update on the first day came out in the middle of the night. But the little author has a heart to die when he sees only 6 evaluation votes. This book, does no one really read it? Readers, give a monthly evaluation ticket. Chapter 7 You choke on Anko. With some smoky smoke, there is also a hint of dissatisfaction. S eyes met Sarutobi Asuma's. After glancing at the no-smoking notice board specially hung by the owner of the meatball shop on the wall, Bajien suddenly smiled. Is this Hokage's son? Sarutobi Asuma. In the anime, it makes a general impression, but is often caught out by a bearded man who cooks cold rice. And what Kenpachi left the deepest impression on him was the scene where he left the little widow to die gracefully, which is indeed a bit ridiculous. Looking at Sarutobi Asuma's resume, he rebelliously left Konoha when he was young and became one of the guardian ninjas. He was very compelled to regard the daimyo as the jade in the mouth of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Only when he was about to die, he thought of Kurenai Yuhi, who continued the incense for him, and realized that the so-called child is a precious jade. However, judging from the scene where he is smoking in a ball store, he is still a younger brother now. His death, the atmosphere of the original anime is very touching. But after growing up, Bajien suddenly began to feel unfamiliar with this character. Same as the son of Hokage. He and Naruto are not even a star apart. And as a man, he didn't give his woman any status until he died, and made him get pregnant out of wedlock. A failure in every way. Son of Hokage, how funny. Cough, cough, cough. It makes sense to ban smoking in public places. Anko and Kurenai Yuhi, obviously a little uncomfortable with the smell of this shoddy tobacco, coughed one or two with a slow look. People with at least some common sense should put out their cigarettes and apologize at this time. But Sarutobi Asuma apparently has no such idea. On the contrary, he felt that he was smoking like his old father, and he took a big mouthful again. He has always wanted to be recognized by his father, but he did not learn something from Sarutobi, the third-generation Hokage, such as the 5-line Grandmaster in ninjutsu. Instead, learn to understand the posture of smoking. Sometimes it's cool for men to smoke, but sometimes the behavior causes resentment. Ridiculous son of Hokage. When Asuma was about to spit out the big puff of smoke, Bajien suddenly looked at each other with a calm smile. Either put out the cigarette or leave Mello in front of me. Swish. The saber went straight through the table, and Bajien's face showed a little grimness. You choke on Anko. You choke on Anko. And Anko. Hard to imagine what Anko's life was like before he picked up the 8 swords. From strangers to true relatives, Bajien has long regarded Anko as the most important part of the world, someone who needs to be protected. Anko is the softest place in Heiken's heart. At the very least, she gave Bajien a warm home. Family. After daily practice, there is a place where you can rest and sleep in peace. Little devil, what are you talking about? Asuma, who was holding a mouthful of cigarettes, finally spoke, but when he spoke, the thick light blue gas rushed directly to Bajien's face. Swish. Ray of cold light flashed, and Asuma only felt a slight chill on his cheeks. The beard he had worked so hard to leave behind, along with the cigarette he was smoking, was cut in half. Immediately afterwards, his chin was suddenly pinched and forced to open his mouth. Clack. The unextinguished cigarette flashed a spark in the air, mixed with the disgusting-looking stubble all into his mouth. Gaba. Hiss tilde. The chin is closed, and the sound of the cigarette being extinguished is clearly audible. Boom. The last kick kicked the opponent out of the meatball shop, and the full set of 8 swords was completely completed. There is no sloppiness. Even if the other party is the son of Hokage, there is no hesitation. From the moment Asuma chokes on Anko, his outcome is already doomed. Sitting on the chair again, he calmly picked up the meatballs, and then poured chili oil into the horrified eyes of the spectators in the meatball shop, filling his stomach in one bite. Others don't know, anyway, might guy not far away has been stunned. Sweet tooth touch chili. Is that stuff really edible? Or is this kid trying to suppress the horror of the Hokage's son? Yes. Sarutobi Asuma, the son of Hokage. Night. Anko didn't know what to say, he just hugged Hachiken's arm moved. Although this arm is still very young. But it is completely worth relying on. A strange light shone in the jewel-like eyes of Kurenai Yuhi next to him. Just looking at this kid's aura, it seems that no matter who you are, whoever moves me must pay the price. Very nice little man. Eat. But the next second, the beautiful atmosphere was suddenly destroyed. I saw Bajian hand the dessert ball covered with chili oil to Anko's mouth. Is this for me? Anko's face was horrified. Favorite meatballs, with the most hated peppers. Is this still edible? In order to avoid my arm not being able to wrap around your bucket waist in the future, please eat it. Eating meatballs a day will be limited to less than 10 in the future. That's it. That's right, just after she came to the meatball shop, she has already been bored into 10 strings. Obviously, the culprit who turned the girl into a bloated ant has been found. When Anko held the ball and stuffed it into his mouth tremblingly, Hachiken stood up and looked at the owner of the ball store. 5 Kushimaru sons, pack and take away. Of course, this is not for Anko. It was a gift for the only friend of the 8 swords besides their relatives. Think carefully after all. The unlucky kid who likes desserts. But suffered for a lifetime. ... I beg Wawa. Wawa's strength must be added today. Thanks little author. Chapter 8. Can you come? As a friend. Is it delicious? As I said, in winter, the sun brings a little warmth, and the cool air in the morning also brings a sense of penetrating comfort. Still the same place. The unknown training ground where the boy and Itachi met. The lunch box has been opened, and the 5 Kushimaru inside are missing a bunch. After swallowing that sweet tooth, the young Itachi's face was full of Yuhi, and the shy-looking Bajian didn't know what to say. After all, he is still a child. After taking a sip of wine, Bajian threw a knife and started training in no hurry. The king of flat chopping, Zengmu Janba, has reached a progress of 3%, and the so-called flat chopping feature will be activated at 2%. Yi Bajian is looking forward to this. The Kyuubi 9 Tails Rebellion will come on October 10th, the day Naruto was born. Sasuke was about 3 months older than Naruto and was born in July. Now that the winter has not completely passed, he still has half a year to improve himself to ensure that he will not be scratched to death by the irascible Kyuubi 9 Tails during the Kyuubi 9 Tails Chaos. Kyuubi 9 Tails Chaos in the original book didn't affect Anko, but that doesn't mean that his presence won't have a side effect, and it doesn't mean that it won't affect him for sure. So, at least you have to protect yourself a little bit. However, the so-called self-protection does not mean that he must have the strength to confront Kyuubi 9 Tails. It's about being able to face the collapsed houses when Kyuubi 9 Tails swept the village and destroyed buildings, that's all. Very real self-preservation, but also very ironic. But when disaster strikes, that's the only luxury the weak have. Bajian is not weak, he just needs time. Lot will happen in Konoha this half-year. Orochimaru's defection, and Jiraiya also left the village in the name of chasing Orochimaru. A must-go cutscene in ninja school. Anko could be inscribed with a spell at any time, etc. These things are the motivation for Bajian to improve himself. Bajian, I heard that you hit Lord Hokage's son. After a moment of silence, Itachi put down the ball, a look of worry appeared on his face. So fast. Asuma would not spread such a shameful thing to reason. Others won't say much because of the identity of the other party. How did the weasel know? The Uchiha family worked as Konoha guards. Yesterday, Sarutobi Asuma was kicked out of the meatball shop, which happened to be seen by the patrol. Kicking Hokage's son, Itachi looked at his friend with emotion. In his opinion, Bajian is not the kind of person who shoots against his companions at will. If he does, there must be his reasons. What made him curious was that the guards saw it, but they didn't step forward to question or even bother. Why is that? He was still worried about this matter before, and even wanted to take the initiative to find his father and ask to let Bajian go. But in fact, the guard patrols are in charge. What is the meaning of the existence of the patrol team? Doesn't have a clear position on what kind of existence Uchiha is in the village and Uchiha. He doesn't understand. Bajian understands. The reason is simple. Asuma's identity. The Uchiha clan, they had just experienced the Third Ninja War, and they didn't even get any reward from Konoha. What did they feel in their hearts? The Uchiha family also experienced a war of blood and fire, and paid a heavy price for Konoha. Then, why treat us differently? What will be the consequences of patrolling the village with this mentality? After they saw the son of 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen being kicked out of a meatball shop by a child, should they gloat at the misfortune or intervene in dealing with the child who made the son of Hokage humiliating? The answer is definitely the former. From this point, the 8 swords smelled a little. That is the conflict between Konoha and Uchiha, and the buds have begun to spread. Is it about to start? The Cubite Nine-Tails rebellion was the last straw that broke Uchiha. Uchiha was suspected again by the high-level officials, and even the clan land was relocated to the family. The conflict will expand again. Without explaining anything to Itachi, Bajian understood that he would figure this out by himself in the future, and then make a choice. If they are still friends then. Bajian chose to stand on his side. Practice. Standing up, Bajian walked into the arena with the knife in hand. No matter when, strength will not betray oneself. The light of the sword disappeared, and the collision between the shuriken and the saber turned into a beautiful symphony. And a small white snake came out of the tree hole not far away again, showing curious eyes. Cultivation time always passes quickly. Yesterday's 2000 hacks, after the upgraded version of the daily task was completed, has become a daily task, which means that from today, the daily task has been changed. 2000 times of hacking and slashing, Bajian enjoys it. Jianzhang, you are such a monster. Finally, when the sun was about to set, Itachi slumped on the stone panting heavily. 8 swords also stopped moving. Itachi was shocked. Shocked by the physical changes of the 8 swords. 2000 slashes yesterday, the man's entire body was shaking. And today, he has been able to make his body no longer uncontrollable due to lack of strength. Monster, probably. Breathing calmly, Bajian replied. Have a rest. Itachi suddenly paused and spoke again. Sword. Tomorrow is my mother's birthday, can you come as my friend? Ask for flowers and a monthly pass. It was too much to be motionless, and the little author cried. Chapter 9 Qualified Father, Failed Patriarch. The Uchiha family. A well-deserved Konoha luxury family. This family is a little too proud, and it also bears the glory that looks ridiculous. Until now, they are still living in the Sengoku period. Their Uchiha clan has swept the ninja world, and only Senju can fight against them in the world. Therefore, people of this family rarely have excessive communication with other ethnic groups or even civilians. From the perspective of Bajian, the Uchiha family is more suitable to be called the Uchiha Autonomous Region. There are special ethnic groups in the Konoha. But every once in a while, there is a special case of the Uchiha clan. A special case of full sun. This exception drives them to bond with people outside the group. Uchiha Obito in front, Uchiha Shisui. And Itachi, who has been slightly changed. Standing at the door of the Uchiha clan, Bajian looked at the people living in their own little world with expressionless faces. He will come only because Itachi is alone. And his words. Sometimes the word, friend, is not a word. After getting along for a long time, in addition to the strength of rapid growth together, there are also fetters and friendship between the two. Itachi is lonely, and until Shisui does not return from the border between the land of water and the land of fire, the only person he can talk to is Hachiken. At this moment, the atmosphere in the Uchiha tribe is very good. People coming and going are making preparations for the birthday of the patriarch's wife. Of course, in this world, A woman's birthday isn't particularly fanciful. Fugaku did this because of the child in Uchiha Mikoto's belly. It's not too much to celebrate. Itachi didn't keep Eight Swords waiting for too long. After learning that he was coming, Itachi has come to the door of the clan to greet his friend. This is true friend. Knight Eight Swords. Aside from the grievances of the ethnic group, people who can communicate with each other. Shisui, it can be said that Itachi's life mentor is more appropriate. The later Itachi is more like a continuation of Shisui. Shisui gave Itachi his eyes and asked Itachi to protect the village while protecting Uchiha. In the end, the Uchiha family was destroyed. Under the intolerance of Konoha, and the calculations of some conspirators. I'm sorry, I'm a little late because I'm receiving guests at home. A habitual apology, which was an instinctive courtesy of the young Itachi. Hachiken didn't say anything, and followed Itachi to the interior of the Uchiha clan. At this moment, Uchiha has not yet migrated to the periphery of Konoha. Just walking in the Uchiha clan, Bajian had an idea that came to his mind involuntarily. Looking around here. As if the entire Uchiha was surrounded by Konoha, and there was even an illusion of being swallowed. Shaking his head, Bajian was too lazy to think about these questions. Uchiha's problem, Konoha's problem. What to do with him? Live, make a few friends, and confidants of Yuhi-yan. This is enough. There is only so much he wants. If this bad village can't tolerate even that, then sorry, Konoha doesn't need to exist. Crossing a few streets, the two came to the home of the Uchiha clan chief. The guests lost interest after glancing at Bajian. Just a kid. Although a friend of the patriarch's son, he is not Uchiha. Not Uchiha, and there is no need to chat. Contrary, Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Makoto's eyes stayed on Haken for a long time. One with the brilliance of motherly love, covering his slightly bulging belly with one hand, the other with a resolute face and an admiring look of the old father. Eyes crossed with Uchiha Fugaku, and Hachiken nodded politely. Uchiha Fugaku, a person with 8 swords, will not judge casually. Hard to describe. He was very qualified as a father, but failed as a patriarch. Indulge his son to kill himself and his family, but it is for the sake of 2 children. As a father, he tried his best. But sorry for the family. Until his death, he did not find the only way to survive in the conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha clan. I really want to see my brother sooner. Looking at his mother's belly, Itachi had Brokan's unique obsession in his eyes. Even if Sasuke wasn't born yet, he was sure that what was in his mother's womb must be his younger brother. Rather than saying that this is the traditional Brokan attribute of the Uchiha family, it is better to say that it is the impact of the new life brought by the birth of the relatives, so that Itachi can find the value and meaning of existence. The party begins. The atmosphere began to warm up gradually. The guests walked up to the patriarch and said some flattering words, while Makoto, the pregnant woman, laughed with him. She is clearly a pregnant woman, and she should pay more attention to rest during this period, but she has been accompanying her for the sake of her husband's face. As a wife, she does her duty. Turn, holding up the wine glass and pulling Itachi, he came to Fugaku and Makoto. Happy birthday, Auntie. Without any unnecessary nonsense, Bajian drank the wine glass in his hand and turned away. Your friend. Mature with ease, looking at the back of the kid, Fugaku seemed to say with some emotion, it has a lot of character. It's Itachi's friend after all. Makoto had a maternal glow on his face. Outside the yard, Itachi, with a habitual apology on his face, found Hachiken who was staring at the cherry tree branches in a daze. The snow had melted overnight. The seedlings on the cherry tree represent new life. Go back, I'll wait for you here, it's not good to be with my son on my mother's birthday. Shaking his head, Bajian drew his saber, I just can't stand the atmosphere. Take a step forward, chop and continue. After Itachi left, a young figure suddenly showed a small face from behind a tree not far away. Iconic big eyes. Cute little face. Her name is Uchiha Izumi, a girl next door who sneaked out with her father to celebrate the birthday of the patriarch's wife. Ask for a ticket. Chapter 10 The King of Flat Cutting, the characteristic one of cutting people. Still 2000 slashes. The young man tirelessly started his own cultivation under the cherry tree. His cultivation method is never limited by location. Cut, cut, cut until he can cut the world upside down. Have the power to truly set yourself free and unrestricted. And the girl with her small head exposed, looked at the man curiously. From the doubt at the beginning to the shock later, the girl's eyes gradually changed. In the sunshine of early spring, the figure of the boy wielding a knife and the sight of the girl peeking together form a strange picture. The fly in the ointment is that the cherry trees are still in bud at the moment, and I can't see the scene of the cherry blossoms flying. After a while, Bajian stopped and sat under the cherry tree, grabbed the wine gourd and held it to the girl. Have a bite. Soon as he said it, Bajian felt that something was not right and shook his head quickly. I am sorry, I'm used to it, you really can't drink this stuff. What does this guy say? Uchiha Izumi approached Hachikan curiously. You're not from the Uchiha clan, are you? She knew all the children of the Uchiha clan, but Bajian was an unfamiliar face. 8 Swords of the Night. The young man took a sip of wine and introduced himself casually. After slightly jumping his head and glancing at the girl, a hint of clarity appeared in his eyes. Uchiha Izumi. A sad girl. Said she was sad, but a little happier than those Uchiha people who were killed. At least in Itachi true biography, Itachi's Tsukuyomi, let her experience a complete life. A life with the people you love. But that's just the original bridge. The real history is a sadness that cannot be concealed, full of cruelty. She was still shouting Itachi's name before being killed by Obito. And now, the girl in front of her will soon become her classmate. Whether she is a passerby or will there be a staggering of fate, Bajian is not clear. Everything goes with the flow. Raised his head, Itachi in the distance has already rushed over. Bajian glanced at the daily quest and stood up. Progress, 897 2000ths. The practice is not over yet. Next is the real start. But the way he and Itachi cultivated is not suitable for this cherry blossom tree, otherwise, I am afraid that the spring equinox will not see the cherry blossoms blooming this year. 8 Swords also thought of the time to see the scene of the cherry blossoms flying. Watching Heiken and Itachi leave, Uchiha Izumi shook his head. What a strange person. Time passes day by day. The atmosphere in Konoha village suddenly became eerie. From the mouths of the villagers, I often hear about the disappearance of the children of so-and-so. And from Enko's mouth, 8 Swords also confirmed one thing. Orochimaru became more and more frantic. According to Bajian's calculations, his reincarnation has reached the most critical time. This means that he is about to defect. And Enko will also become more and more dangerous, becoming the first experiment of the curse of the sky. Konoha Training Ground. 1997. 1998. 1999. 2000. Ding. The daily task is completed, and the progress of your King of Flat Chopping template will increase by 0.2%. Ding. Congrats to the host, the progress of your first King of Flat Slashing template has reached 5%, and the King of Flat Slashing feature has been activated. Are you starting to draw randomly? The sweaty figure was panting heavily. Itachi, who was beside him, was exhausted and had to work hard to speak. Jian sang, are you dying? A face full of helplessness, with a little shock. Itachi doesn't know what to say anymore, and he doesn't know how to remind his good friend to pay attention to his body. Today's Jianzhang seems to be going crazy. Since arriving at the training ground in the early morning, he has not stopped swinging the knife. He has been following the rhythm because of suffering, and his already tired hands have lost consciousness. I have a reason to be stronger. After a sigh of relief, Bajian's voice was low. A person can only see himself before he dies, but what he sees clearly means, in my opinion, how weak he really is. I am so weak that I can only sigh that I can't change anything. And me, that day will not come. Because I will never die. The Orochimaru defection is imminent, as is the Kyuubi 9 Tails rebellion. 5% template power of Zengmujien will bring a qualitative change to his strength. Extract. Ding. Congratulations to the host for extracting the characteristic. Strengthen, Chakra Blade. Chakra Blade. Bajian frowned and looked over curiously. Chakra Blade, one of the powerful slashing features. The host can control the change of chakra attributes at will, and attach it to the weapon to attack. Note, the host has the highest chakra attribute change interest. With the same chakra attribute change, no one can surpass the host. A very strong flat cutting feature. The introduction to chakra blades is not difficult to understand. The meaning is obvious. Starting from today, his knife can add various chakra attributes to it to attack at will. For example, Futon Wind Style Resenshuriken, in his case, will become Futon Wind Style Flat Cut. And the following annotation also emphasizes that the same chakra attribute changes, his level cut priority is superior to everything. For example, the same applies to Resenshuriken, his is stronger than the other. This is to strengthen the blade of chakra. Outrageously strong. With all the light in his eyes, he felt a low roar from the chakra 8 swords in his body. Immediately afterwards, a fast-moving knife slashed at the rockery in the training ground in front of him. ... Well, 10, nah. If flowers and evaluation tickets have been added, as long as they are added, no matter how many, they will be in Chapter 3 before the evening. Reader, where are you? Add more, add more. Chapter 11 When the Beast Meets Another Beast. You've been a little blatant recently. The dark root base, Shimura Danzo, known as the king of Konoha Pot, frowned at the man in front of him. What the hell are you going to do? With a haze in his eyes, Danzo asked again. To say that the experiment of studying Hashirama cells and transplanting them into their own body has been completed. But the other party's demand for experimental subjects has become greater. And even if it is to cultivate ninjas who can control Mokuden, wood style, such a big project has been completed. A is an example. However, until now, Orochimaru is still researching day after day. In his dark laboratory, the screams made his scalp tingle even when he heard it. I want to live longer. Sticking out his disgusting tongue, Orochimaru had a wild smile on his face. Reincarnation is about to be completed. He knew he would leak sooner or later, but before leaving, he had to speed up the ninjutsu he had created. For longevity. To live. From the Second Ninja World War and the Battle of Yamato Hanzo, and later led the Konoha Ninja Army to defend Kikyo Mountain to the death. He has done so much for Konoha. But he got nothing. People's respect. That thing fades over time and doesn't have any substantial effect. On the way to the war, he saw too many deaths. From the death of his parents on the mission, to the lesser ninjas by his side on Kikyo Mountain. The meaning of life is to live. Only by living long can he study all kinds of ninjutsu and do what he likes to do. Only the longer he lives, the stronger he will become. In short, he has realized it. Understand your own life motto. Only alive, there is output. I won't be staying in Konoha for too long, and the teacher should have noticed when the experiment is done. After recovering from his thoughts, Orochimaru's expression gradually calmed down. I'll let you know when I find a suitable place. By the way, I want a person's information, all the information. Material. Konoha, besides Uchiha Itachi, is there anyone else you are interested in? Danzo frowned. Who? Yebajian, the kid who was adopted by my lovely apprentice. The night is dark and windy. A figure from the Midarashi family came to the training ground again during the day wearing a black cloak. After training in the daytime, after wielding that sword, his physical strength finally reached the peak, and he collapsed from exhaustion. In the end, Itachi dragged him home with a tired body. After all, he was only 5 years old. Relying on the chakra extracted from the body, as well as physical strength, it is not bad to be able to successfully achieve additional characteristics when exhausted. But he wasn't sure how powerful that knife was. I just vaguely remember that the rockery collapsed in two. After a sleep, his physical strength has recovered, and Bajian eagerly wants to know the effective lethality of the characteristics. This is important. In Konoha, it's not like you can use your moves as you like. Always beware of people watching you in the dark. Hokage, which uses a crystal ball to watch the female soup, is fine. Therefore, during the daytime, it is the last time to use the characteristic test attack power. Not to hide one's hand. It was to catch everyone off guard when he needed to show his combat effectiveness. Playing as a pig and eating a tiger. No, he just didn't want to cause trouble. Although the fourth generation of Hokage Namikaze Minato is still in power, the third generation of Hokage did not choose to go home to retire, but instead sat in the Hokage office. Hehe, one village, two Hokages make decisions together. The purpose is clear to the individual. The 3 generations have not been laid off. Even promoting Namikaze Minato to become the 4th generation Hokage is a helpless move. Because of the Third Ninja War, the loss to Konoha was too great, so under the pressure of Danzo, he stepped down. The only thing that can be resigned is the name, and the power is still in his hands. And Bajian, who is in the developmental stage, does not want to be watched by the high-level Konoha too early. Landing lightly on the training ground, looking at the collapsed rockery, Bajian stretched out his hand and stroked the extremely smooth incision on it, and finally revealed a smile. In that knife, he used the change of the chakra attribute of the wind, which increased the effect of the chakra blade cutting to the apex. The lethality is very good. The sharpness of this kind of cutting is completely unstoppable by ordinary weapons. As he grows older, the lack of physical strength and chakra will also be compensated, and the effect of his flat cutting characteristic will be infinitely magnified. Nodding with satisfaction, Bajian stood up. The lethality of characteristics he already knew Akatsuki. He also has a general understanding of his own combat power. As the king of flat chopping, how his combat power, who inherited the Zengi Kenpachi template, depends on whether he is willing to fight with death. Only in real battles can he show his true strength. From the world of death, the power of evil spirits. After cleaning up the traces on the ground, Bajian was about to leave when suddenly a cold breath made him turn his head and hold the knife in his hand. Dark, wild, evil. There is only one man in Konoha village with such a temperament. Orochimaru. It's very perceptive. When the figure slowly walked out from behind the tree, Bajian's pupils shrank slightly. It's not perception. When a beast encounters another beast, it will perceive it. Beast. This kid's judgment of himself is very vivid. ... Oh, I added 3 flowers, okay, I sent them first. Chapter 12 Get the secrets of your body. Nighttime is also quite suitable for wild beast hunting. Very relaxed, he walked to Bajian. For the first time, Orochimaru seriously looked at this little-known kid. There is no Kekkei Genkei, no ethnic group. War orphans left over from the Third Ninja War. Except for the ferocity that he showed when he was a child with the older child who bullied you, and almost bit off the man's neck. The tongue moved up and down his lips, and the curious look in Orochimaru's eyes deepened. But such an ordinary kid, at the age of 5, can even change the chakra attributes that most Master Jonin can't control. Also, that steady and outrageous swordsmanship. Why? Holding his shoulders, Orochimaru's tone was full of admiration. Yes. Crouching in the laboratory, Orochimaru looked surprised when he read all the materials on 8 swords. Neither the father nor the mother, nor the ancestors above the father and mother, have any answer to the so-called Kekkei Genkai race. 3 generations on, they were all Konoha civilians. Parents are also little Chunin. In the Third Ninja War, Chunin and Genin meant that they were just ordinary cannon fodder. A child who is a cannon fodder shouldn't have an ordinary life and become a passerby, right? Blood is everything. This is Orochimaru's research. All of them are civilians. He has been obsessed with research and wants to sublimate his bloodline. Reincarnation is not the result of research. Uchiha Itachi was also his first prey. It's night, and while the 3rd generation is not peeping with a crystal ball, you should go and catch more children as experimental subjects, not here. With Orochimaru's movements, Hachiken also calmed down with his arms folded. It directly exposed Orochimaru's human experiments. Confidence comes from strength. 5% of the full-body Zaraki sword. Bajian has never fully demonstrated it, but the evil spirit is the evil spirit. The roaring demon is fearless in the slaughter. Inheriting his power, as long as he dares, 5% can forcibly leave something on Orochimaru. He firmly believed that Orochimaru did not dare to fight in Konoha, because he made himself uncomfortable and exposed his human experiments in advance. So Orochimaru came here to test himself at best. That being the case, what is there to be afraid of in Bajian? And Orochimaru appeared here and didn't do it directly. You know a lot. His pupils shrank for a while, and a fierce murderous aura emerged from his body. At this moment, Orochimaru became completely serious, but his seriousness returned to playfulness after only 1 second, then what he said just now. What a commoner with a blood-stained race can't do. So, Bajian-kun, I'd love to know your secret. As for what you said about the knight being suitable for abducting test items, I think the best test item for the time being is you. The shadow snake hand. Swish. He stretched out his hand and threw it towards Yi Bajian, and a few ferocious pythons flew out of Orochimaru's cuff with Kiba's claws. Shadow snake hand. Cold, Kun Orochimaru's signature exploratory attack. But this move did not pose any threat to Bajian. As always, it was no different from the sword-wielding that Itachi was training. With just 1 sword, the sharp cold light directly cut off the giant snake's head. Put away the children's toys, Mr. Snake. Orochimaru in front of him calmly, Hachima threw the saber in his hand. Facing Orochimaru, he did not panic at all. Especially when he got to the back, he became less panicked. It is best for Orochimaru to reincarnate a few more times. At that time, he is more confident to randomly crush the opponent. The reason is simple. His knife. It's not just as simple as a flat cut. Who is Zaragi Kenpachi? Gote 13th Division, Battle Division Captain. It's the god of death. The god of death has countless ways to target the soul, among which blasting is the most common slash. That is, at this moment in the hands of Bajian, it has transformed into the blade of Zanpakuto. That's right, he who unlocked 5% of Zanpakuto's strength, the novice saber given by the system, has also become a basic Zanpakuto. Even Zaraki Kenpachi cannot avoid Benkai's Grim Reaper in the early stage, which is also Grim Reaper. Zanpakuto, the god of death, is the most effective way to target the soul. The temptation is not over yet. Reaching out of thin air, a small sharp sword fell into Orochimaru's hands. This is the Konoha training ground. Too much movement will attract the attention of the ninja, which Orochimaru knows very well. Compared with Bajian, he didn't want to show his fault now and let the higher-ups notice him. So using knife technique is the best option. By the way, he wants to see how strong the swordsmanship of this young man is. Ding ding. Figures staggered briefly, and a battle that was not evenly matched began. Couldn't shoot with all his strength, but Orochimaru had the confidence to suppress the opponent, grab him, and then take him to his laboratory to study the secret of the kid's body in front of him. Fail. Never thought. Kid, I'm Orochimaru. I'm eyeing you, you are my prey. As Bajian said, when two beasts meet, it is bound to cause a battle. ... Okay, my god, I really didn't add a single flower. The author of The Little Man is still adding more. Now, here comes the second chapter of Jiagen, the 12th chapter of the first day. Signing in is done. Is there no reader to squeak? Chapter 13 Eight Swords Kun, are you interested in being missing Nin? The moonlight in early spring is not so bright. The newly melted snow exudes a cold atmosphere at night due to the change in temperature difference. Inside the Konoha training ground. The training equipment on display has been smashed by the rolls, and the big tree with the carved target has also been cut off several times. On both sides of the rough old tree pole, two figures face each other in the air. Two shadows were reflected on the ground under the moonlight. One big and one small, it looks extremely abrupt. But the masters of the two shadows have the same temperament. Wild. Wild. Knight Eight Swords, and Orochimaru. Holding a pheasant sword, Orochimaru's face was nothing but admiration. Unparalleled knife skills. Although there is only one attack method, it is extremely effective. Orochimaru is the only one who can wield the sword to such a degree. Hatake Tsukumo, the man known as the Konoha White Fang. His strength can bring Hokage half-sleeves. A few years ago, Konoha White Fang was already dead, sprayed to death by trolls. And now, the little devil in front of him reminded Orochimaru of that man again. The knife skills are superb, but different. White Fang's knife is a killer knife. The little devil's knife in front of him is wild and unruly. Sometimes it is free and easy like the wind, and sometimes it destroys everything like thunder and lightning. But what Orochimaru saw from Yabajian was the indomitable sternness and momentum. Slashes infinitely until death without leaving wounds on the back. It's strange, obviously a kid, so troublesome. Looking at the moon, I roughly calculated the time. Orochimaru sighed slightly. To be honest, he is not good at swordsmanship. Although I have studied with Senior White Fang for a while. But his body, more suitable for releasing ninjutsu, is destined not to be too strong. Right now, although he is confident that he can quickly catch the opponent with all his strength, he will definitely disturb Konoha's barrier. Reincarnation is still in the final stage, and some important information has not been transferred in the base in time. It is not rational to alarm the senior management. So, there is only one option left. But obviously, giving up is only temporary, and the existence of Yabajian has aroused great interest in him. The stronger the potential of the other party's outbreak, the greater his interest. He suddenly had an idea. I admit, Bajian-kun, I underestimated you. A deep breath, the murderous aura on Orochimaru disappeared instantly, but instead revealed a wicked smile, and took back the grass pheasant sword. Eight Swords, kun. A polite honorific. When Orochimaru admires a person, it will not hide this appreciation. Just as he stares at a person, he will tell you generously that I have eyes on your body. This is Orochimaru, who does not hide his ambitions and is not afraid that others will know his ambitions. In his eyes, there is only scientific research. But Bajian-kun, my interest in you has grown a lot. The unconcealed greed disappeared, and Orochimaru stretched out his hand. Then, may I ask you a question, is your excellency interested in being a missing nin? Come with me and leave this false village. This is an unreasonable question. But that's what he asked, and he was eager to get the answer from Bajian's mouth. Aren't you afraid I'm going to tell Hokage that you're going to be sentenced to the village? Bajian asked with a sneer. You won't, because your body hides no less secrets than I do. Orochimaru smiled, a smile full of sarcasm. Everyone sees that this village is full of warmth and sunshine, but he has understood too many things after spending so many years in Konoha. If the higher-ups, even Danzo, knew about the hidden strength of Bajian, this kid's life would be a mess in the future. This is for sure. Konoha, never need to fight beyond your control. How is it? When you leave this village, you will find a wider sky and how narrow your vision was before. Bajian-kun, are you interested in being a missing nin? Orochimaru is inviting again. Missing nin. Betrayed who? Konoha. Bajian laughed out loud. This village has nothing to do with me, and my short-term asylum is just a humble and extravagant request for my parents' death. This village is never worthy of my belief, so why betray it? Mr. Snake, shouldn't you be proud of being a missing nin? And is it really a betrayal to leave Konoha to pursue your dreams? If you want to betray and become a missing nin, just do it. Please destroy it, or be destroyed by it. Wouldn't you be proud to be a missing nin? Please destroy it, or be destroyed by it. It is Konoha. What kind of vision made this child ask such a question? Orochimaru suddenly calmed down. Betray the village, or be betrayed by the village. Missing nin means a lot. But the so-called betrayal cannot be summed up in 3 or 2 sentences. Is it really betrayal to leave the village to pursue one's own dreams? He was silent. Orochimaru, who had always been proud of his knowledge, suddenly felt a little dull. Before that, he was still thankful that the plan to defect was completed. But now, the boy's words caused him to be briefly confused. The things he had always valued were so worthless. Turning his hands behind his back, Orochimaru wanted to go back to his laboratory and calm down. But when he turned around, Yi Bajian's voice came again. Maybe I'll come to you when I can't stay in this village any longer. Is this his answer? The light in Orochimaru's eyes flickered. Don't worry, that day will come. People like you will never be trapped by a mere Konoha, and your wildness doesn't fit here. However, Kenpachi-kun. With sharp eyes, Orochimaru turned around in an instant, revealing a hideous face, staring fiercely at Bajian, and staring at these few words actually disturbed his mind. When the time comes, please be careful with me. Because I can't help but want to kill you. Phew, the 3rd chapter plus update is complete. Thank you for your support of the little author's book, thank you. The 13 chapters on the first day are completed. I hope you can continue to support the little author. Thank you very much. Chapter 14 Danzo, we still have a chance. In the training ground shrouded in darkness, only Bajian was left. Orochimaru is gone. What is certain is that, through today's conversation and preliminary probing, Orochimaru has thoroughly developed an interest in him. But Yi Bajian is not afraid. His strength is growing every day, give him time and the so-called threat will cease to exist. And today's tough dialogue with Orochimaru is very necessary in Heiken's view. On the one hand, it may seem like a hassle to draw Orochimaru's attention to himself, but it won't be long before Orochimaru leaves Konoha. On the other hand, he doesn't appear to be okay to report things about himself to the top of Konoha. It's more like a potential agreement with each other. In the future, the 8 swords will go to Orochimaru to have a good chat, and of course, only then will decide who is the real prey. Did you go to him? Root base, Orochimaru's laboratory entrance. Danzo was clearly trying to get something out of Orochimaru's mouth, so he waited here early. There are very few little devils in Konoha who can be asked for information by Orochimaru. As the leader of the Roots, Danzo clearly cares about this kind of thing. He wanted to know what was different about that kid named Yi Bajian. Just an interesting kid. Mr. Snake has returned to normal, his animal eyes staring at Danzo coldly. Boring person. There is ambition, but no power to match ambition. That's what he said about Danzo. Especially now that he sees this more clearly. Please come back, I don't want to be disturbed in my experiment. Danzo clearly didn't expect Orochimaru to be so cold. Of course something happens. A deep breath, Danzo looked serious. Recently, you should be more calm. Sarutobi and the 4th generation have begun to investigate the disappearance of the child. Again this question. Orochimaru stared at Danzo, a question he never wanted to explain a second time. What about the investigation? He will leave sooner or later, it's just a matter of time. The experiment had come to an end, and he had no reason to stop. At most half a year, there will be changes in Konoha, and you still have a chance. Danzo looked solemn and pointed to the sky. Isn't that position what you've always expected? This is an opportunity. That location. Orochimaru suddenly laughed. The smile was full of ridicule and disdain for the root leader in front of him. Isn't that position what you've always expected? Neck suddenly extended, and then wrapped directly around Danzo's neck. Orochimaru's eyes were inhuman, and even had a trace of murderous intent. Danzo, do you think I, Orochimaru, will be a puppet in the confrontation between you and the teacher like Minato? Orochimaru was far smarter than Danzo thought. The moment Danzo spoke, he knew what the other party was planning. An accident, the accident that determines that position. Danzo still feels like he hasn't given up on that position to this day. Yes. After the Third Ninja War, his voice to become Hokage is no lower than Namikaze Minato. Sarutobi chose the better controlled Namikaze Minato. And his ideal of being Hokage was over at that moment. Sorry, I'm no longer interested in Hokage. The position you want is not as good as an experiment report in my opinion. Letting go of Danzo, Orochimaru walked into his laboratory alone. And the moment he stepped in, he suddenly bowed his body again, turning his head 360 degrees to look at the dazed Danzo, but if it is to destroy it, I am very interested. ... Winter is completely over. The spring sun is extraordinarily warm. Eight Swords' life became regular, day after day practice, sweating with Itachi on the training ground. On this day, Itachi appeared outside Midarashi's house early in the morning and waited. After the Eight Swords in the martial arts uniform came out, he hurriedly walked over to the other party and took out something similar to a pass. The ninja school starts today, and my father has already helped us with the admission procedures. With a warm smile on his face, Itachi avoided some sensitive issues this time. Let my father help us make it a one-time take. After all, Bajian is an orphan. His older sister Enko looked a little dumbfounded. These things, he will do better and more appropriate. Are you going to school? After receiving the admission letter, Hachiken fell into deep thought. Orochimaru didn't reveal anything about his strength as he expected, so he wasn't noticed by the higher-ups. But with Itachi entering school, and graduating from ninja school in just 1 year, Konoha was a direct hit. At that time, the high-level people should pay attention to the person who is closer to Itachi. A year. It seems that is enough. Putting away the notice, Hachiken nodded at Itachi, and the two of them walked towards the ninja school. His Zanpakudo. Bajian's body trembled slightly. Not fear, but the excitement of eagerness to fight. Since it is noticed, it is inevitable. Then, let the ground under your feet tremble because of him. ... Ask for a ticket. Chapter 15 Not Hokage's Hokage. 3 generations of adults, the information about the missing children and the investigation report are all here. Konoha Hokage Building. The whole village serves as a place of authority. Blonde-haired Namikaze Minato sorted the papers and pushed them aside. His eyes wandered, and there was a hint of helplessness in Minato's eyes. A Hokage desk. It is for 2 people. This kind of Hokage seems to be a little different from what he expected. And these documents. As a Hokage, he has no way of calling the shots. Although according to those clues, it is obvious that a person can be identified. But that person is not something he can move. Ridiculous. As Hokage, the decision rests with the previous generation. Is that so? At the content above, the 3rd generation of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen showed a slightly sad expression on his face. Unconsciously, he picked up the pipe next to him and lit it, and a heavy cigarette was sprayed into the office. Minato frowned slightly and moved his body slightly to the side. But the power brought by the big smoking gun cannot be avoided in this small office. Second-hand smoke is far more harmful than first-hand smoke. But what can he say? Kushina is still pregnant. Every day before going home, Minato spends an hour purifying alone outside before entering the house. Although I really want to cough hard, and then tell the 3 generations from the side not to smoke in public, it is disrespectful to others. But in the end, he didn't speak. Because since the last time he got news that it was the son of the 3rd generation who was kicked out for smoking in public, he thought that the 3rd generation would understand a little bit about how disapproving his behavior was. But after repeatedly mentioning this matter, the 3 generations did not take it seriously. From the time he became the 4th generation of Hokage to the present, he understood too many things. This Hokage, when not going well. Namikaze Minato is a little envious of the child who did something to Sarutobi Asuma. Knight 8 Swords. Just because of this incident, he remembered the other party's name. Like him, he was exposed to second-hand smoke. The difference is that the child was not restrained and did what he wanted to do but was afraid to do. Express your dissatisfaction with action. Yibajian dared to shoot directly in the face of second-hand smoke, but he couldn't. Let's put this matter aside for a while. If there is no real evidence that can be finalized, don't make a fool of yourself. Those documents into a drawer next to him. Sarutobi locked the drawer naturally, and slowly raised his head to look at Minato. Speaking of which, today is the opening day of the ninja school. Just now, the face with a sad face appeared a little relieved, and the speed of change made Minato seem a little numb. The old man is the honorary headmaster of the Konoha Ninja School, so I should go check it out at this time. Standing up, Sandai took another heavy puff of cigarettes and looked at Minato. Let's go, Youngtame, as the information of the excellent next generation of Hokage master is necessary. It's also where you're going to learn. It's that preachy tone again. Although he was used to it, Minato always felt a little awkward. For example, he accidentally heard that the 3 generations of Hokage-sama changed some content in the ninja school textbook. However, it's good to go out and get some air. Since becoming Hokage, there have been few opportunities to leave the office to escape secondhand smoke. Namikaze Minato followed Sandai and left the smoky office, and the moment he stepped out, his pace sped up significantly and stood in front of Sandai Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Perhaps, this is his last stubbornness in front of outsiders. He is the Hokage of Konoha. To Minato's actions. Quietly left the office. Konoha Ninja School. The place where each ninja first practiced. At the beginning of the new year, the children came to this magical place accompanied by their parents. Unlike many children. Under the swing at the gate of the school, the 2 teenagers attracted widespread attention. One of the faces has an age-inappropriate depth and maturity, and under the nasolabial folds is the iconic Shota face. The other has sharp, unruly eyes on his body, a saber pierced around his waist and a dark martial arts uniform, which are not very impactful. Former Uchiha Itachi. Many children have heard his name countless times from their parents. Young genius, the son of the head of the Uchiha clan, even went to war with his father to witness the cruelty of war. Excellent is outrageous. But no matter from which point of view, the outstanding young man at this time was centered on a saber boy next to him, and would smile at the saber boy from time to time. It seems that his existence can give Itachi a lot of peace of mind. And Uchiha Itachi. This is the first day of admission. Busy teachers are recording materials, while parents are earnestly exhorting children to pay attention. Suddenly, people suddenly became commotion. Hachiken and Itachi also followed people's gazes. 2 figures appeared at the end of the street. Namikaze Minato, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Yibajian murmured, tilting his head to look at Itachi. Let's go, the Lord is here. Well, it's the end of the month, the little author dares to ask for a monthly pass. One is fine, at least give the author a reason to add more. Chapter 16 Itachi. I'm sorry Hokage-sama, but I'm not the strongest freshman. Young people are the hope of the future. The older generation should trust and guard them. The sacrifice of the older generation is not meaningless, but will inspire young people to become the pillars of the future. These are the words of the will of fire in the heart of the old man. To put them all together is the words written by the old man. Where the leaves are flying, the fire will continue to grow. The fire will continue to illuminate the village and allow the new leaves to sprout. True will of fire. Hokage on their first day of school. Its reputation is to guide the growth direction of the new generation. Chatter as always. But below, the children who clearly didn't know the meaning of it listened with gusto. Only Itachi, who was beside Bajian, was a little confused. Gently tugging on Bajian's sleeves, Itachi leaned into the other's ear and whispered, "Yi, didn't you tell me yesterday that if you put Kaden, fire style, in the woods this season, the village will also follow burnt down?" This was yesterday, when he excitedly told Bajian that he had learned Grand Fireball from his father and wanted to show it in front of his friends, what the other said. Unfortunately, Grand Fireball was never released. Yes. The will of fire is such a sick sentence, but the three generations have spread their own poems everywhere. A fire in the woods does not illuminate the village, it burns the whole village down. Very good insight. Bajian patted Itachi on the shoulder with relief. There are some problems with the metaphor, but the truth is that, since it is a metaphor, let's make a bold guess. Comparing Konoha to a forest, what is the source of the flames? Source of flame. Weasel's eyes narrowed. Yes, the Uchiha clan, the iconic fire clan. If it's the Uchiha clan that burns the Konoha, guess what happens next? With a mysterious smile, Hachiken's words left the deepest impression in Itachi's heart. Burns Konoha, comes from Uchiha. Young Itachi obviously did not understand the deeper meaning. His eyes were confused again. At this age, he often thinks about problems from the perspective of Hokage, and suddenly he can't accept such a forced setting. Village, Konoha. Father's sigh. Villagers, opinion on Uchiha. Bajian did not continue to say anything. Itachi's life is full of tragedies, and those tragedies cannot be changed casually. Bajian didn't know what the seeds he left in Itachi's heart would bring. At least what Haken wants to change is the seriousness of the Uchiha family and Konoha in Itachi's heart. What happened to make Bajian say such things? Itachi clenched his fists and suddenly felt a little frightened. Don't worry, no matter what happens, I'll stand behind you. Leaving a sentence that filled Itachi with doubts, Hachiken leaned against the tree and closed his eyes. For him, instead of listening to the nonsense of three generations, it is better to immerse himself in refining chakra. The chakra refining technique was exchanged by him from the system mall, and it is an upgraded version of the ordinary refining technique. During the refining process, it can basically not consume the original energy of the cells, so as not to hurt the root. This alone has made Bajian's foundation higher than other peers. Like him, the refining technique used by Itachi is also this one. After all, Bajian makes an assumption that it still needs to be verified whether the serious illness of Itachi in the later period comes from cell depletion. It's just a refining technique, making Itachi not so virtual, it's just a gift to his friends. No big deal. However, it may be that the state of the two is too different from the other freshmen. The three generations on the stage suddenly frowned and swept their eyes. Looking at it, the three generations suddenly thought of something. Hehe, are the talented youngsters of the Uchiha clan also enrolled in this group? Suddenly, he waved to Itachi kindly, and the three generations' eyes were full of kindness. Come on, stand beside me. What is the third generation going to do? Minato, who was standing beside him, frowned. He was very clear about the relationship between the Uchiha family and Konoha. Although it was okay on the surface, it was only on the surface. The reality is full of contradictions. Especially the 3 generations of Hokage, he can never have a good impression of Uchiha's talented boy. Then what's the point of him calling the other party up? Minato wondered. Itachi also do not understand. But Hokage-sama's words are orders in Konoha. Although the 3rd generation has abdicated, Itachi is not those children who can't understand the real situation. Nodding, Itachi walked to the stage and stood beside Sandai. I often hear Fugaku mention that he has a son who makes him extremely proud. Patting Itachi's head, the 3rd generation said gently, at the age of 3, he followed his father to the battlefield. After returning, his strength has grown by leaps and bounds, and he has even become proficient with the Master Shuriken. In the eyes of the old man, the ninja school will be filled with your deeds in the next few years, as the most potential and even the strongest freshman known as a genius. What do you think of the will of fire that the old man just mentioned? Kill it. Don't underestimate the jealousy that the children of Konoha village feel after complimenting Hokage. Uchiha was not so harmonious with the villagers. And Uchiha's genius boy will be jealous because of Hokage's praise. This is the power of a politician, just 3 or 2 words. The current Itachi, obviously unable to see this meaning, accepted Hokage's praise with a face like Yuhi. But there is a layer of card counting in the 3rd generation that made a mistake. He said the wrong thing. The shy Itachi scratched his head, and then his little head shook violently. Thanks for the compliment, Mitsuyo-sama, but... Sorry, Lord Hokage. With him around, Itachi never thought he would be the strongest freshman. ... Peace, thank you for the monthly ticket that hurts the big guy. Gone, I have a reason to add more today. Chapter 17 Yi Bajian, please give me more advice. There is him. Itachi never thought he would be the strongest freshman. In one sentence, it revealed someone's position in Itachi's heart. All the freshmen and teachers present were amazed. Who is he talking about? Uchiha Itachi, who was talked about by everyone before he entered the school, who was a genius boy by Uchiha, would actually admire a person so much. Follow Uchiha Itachi's gaze. A wild young man leaning against a tree and stroking a saber, holding a wine gourd and trying to pour it into his mouth, caught everyone's attention. Out of place, but with a unique aura. He stood there, so different. With the arrogance that this age does not have. Probably, people should have noticed him long ago. But now, that attention has turned into amazement. Can really be affirmed by Uchiha. Who is he? Sarutobi Hiruzen paused and looked at Namikaze Minato next to him. Itachi's answer disrupted his rhythm and plan. The killing effect has completely disappeared. He lost the opportunity to teach Minato, such as teaching Minato to Uchiha's way of checks and balances. Yebajian, I mentioned it to you before. Had a conflict with your son Asuma because Asuma choked on his older sister, Mitarashi Anko, smoking in a meatball shop. Partnering Hokage with Sarutobi Hiruzen for so long, he understands what Sandaime-sama means when he sees himself. He wanted to know the origin of that young man. But he clearly told the other side many times. It was him. Sarutobi turned to look at Yabajian. He looked at the boy again, and the boy also looked at him. The 4 eyes were facing each other, and there was no spark as expected, and they just staggered and retracted their gazes. Speaking of Asuma, his son. Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. Asuma has left Konoha. Left after an argument with myself. Said to go to find the real Jade. The answer is clearly in Konoha. What is he looking for? How can the real Jade be outside? In the end, he still did not understand himself, nor did he see the meaning of Jade. It's this kid. Knight 8 Swords. Get Uchiha Itachi sure child. Plan was disrupted, and Sarutobi suddenly lost interest. But the civilian ninja who can surpass Uchiha's talent is worth noting. Patting Itachi's head, Sarutobi showed a hypocritical smile again. as expected of you, you are really humble. Overall, he didn't get anything either. The moment he saw Itachi, Sarutobi seemed familiar. Itachi has a low profile that is different from other Uchiha clan. That kind of sunshine made Sarutobi think of a person. A man who is also from the Uchiha family, but who is willing to merge with Konoha. Uchiha Kagami. And his descendant, Uchiha Shisui. This discovery is important to Sarutobi. One last glance at Itachi, and the corner of his eyes included the big tree the boy was standing on. Yibajian with a wine gourd. I don't know how to say you. Hokage's words, no, from Konoha's honorary headmaster, were over. Itachi and Hachiken were undoubtedly assigned to the elite class. Sitting in the corner of the classroom, Hachiken stretched out his index finger and placed it on Itachi's forehead. The sudden pain made Itachi feel a little aggrieved. And he always felt that this trick should not be the skill of Master Bajianing. But he did. The action is difficult to standard. Eight Swords shook his head. What can he say? After all the calculations, I didn't expect that it was Itachi who gave him the idea of a high-level executive. To blame. Will not. Itachi, this unfortunate child, has his own considerations before doing anything. Since he did, he has his own reasons. And what is the reason? Bajian can also guess some. Help your friends as much as you can. Let your friends enter the high-level line of sight, and have been favored by Hokage since then, and become the backbone of the village. This is where Itachi can help Hachiken. Thinking about it like this, he did it naturally. Uchiha Itachi is such a person, and now Hachiken is his ultimate friend. And he didn't think there was anything wrong with what he said. Eight Swords are so strong in his heart. After practicing together for a long time, he understood what kind of person Bajian was. Bajian once told him, "Since you can only do one thing, make it the pinnacle." With such a belief, Itachi doesn't think he can surpass him. After several discussions with Bajian, Itachi also knows how strong the opponent is. With him around, he would naturally not become the strongest freshman. To tell the truth, let Lord Hokage notice his friends, and even get Hokage's appreciation in the future, and make progress. Itachi's idea is so simple and simple. Now he doesn't understand how tolerant the so-called Konoha is. Premature attention will bring unnecessary trouble. Bajian didn't say anything to blame. Nor is it necessary. If it was just because of Itachi's words, the 3 generations ordered Anbu to give himself a demonic illusion torture. Then he's just as powerful as a Hokage. So don't worry too much. Looking around, the students were making boring self-introductions. This is the rule of the Konoha ninja school. Finally at Bajian, the eyes of the students gathered again. They were also curious about the name of the 8 Swords. Slowly standing up, in front of the class teacher Yamazaki Ryuji, Bajian picked up the wine gourd and sullenly sighed, and then showed that wild smile again. Yi Bajian. Please advise. Well, thanks for the 200 VIP point reward, thank you very much. Jamor must be arranged to understand. Thanks to the author. Chapter 18 A Sudden Sword-Wielding Girl. The brief self-introduction session is over. The name Yi Bajian is destined to be remembered by all students. Surpassed the man who was chosen as the strongest freshman by Hokage-sama. In other words, that man has been acquiesced as the first freshman. Dissatisfied, there are many people. On the contrary, Bajian saw many familiar figures in this elite class. Inazuka Kiba's older sister, the future beauty veterinarian Inazuka Hana. And the Purple Phantom, the girl who also loves to use swords, Azuki Yugao. 6 Seedling Moonlight Hayate. In addition, I saw Uchiha Izumi, the younger sister of Kazlan, who I met long after celebrating Uchiha Makoto's birthday. The above are the students that 8 Swords can remember. Withdrew his eyes and lay on the table. He couldn't hear a word of the teacher's teachings, especially when Bajien saw the first few words in the textbook. He couldn't hold back his laughter. Ancestor Hokage. Volume 1. The Strongest Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. What is this? Weakly closed the textbook. Bajien gave himself a slap in the face. Sarutobi, you really have this thing written into the textbook. No wonder in the early days of the Hokage world, Konoha has been circulating rumors that the third generation is the strongest Hokage. Shaking his head, the title is this. Bajien has completely lost interest in watching it. He became a student of the ninja school, but it was just a passing scene. When he gets the ninja forehead, it will all end. As for Sarutobi, there is no doubt that everything written in the textbook is positive. Example, the leader lost the purpose of the second generation of Hokage and won the Second Ninja War. For another example, the Third Ninja World War, due to his active scheduling, allowed Konoha to win again under the multi-party battles of the 4 major ninja villages. Coupled with his rule, Konoha is at its peak. These are also things that the villagers can see. But each item is not worth digging into. The Second Ninja World War, Konoha only got a superficial victory. He paid the price of the entire Senju clan, and he did not win Hanzo of the Salamander, but he couldn't help a Megakure village. Not to mention the Third Ninja War. If it weren't for the rise of Yellow Flash, coupled with Orochimaru's deadly carrying the Kikyoyama defense line. Konoha, I'm afraid it's already cold. His 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. You know, whether it was the Second Ninja War or the Third, Sarutobi was just sitting on Konoha's desk smoking a cigarette. Ever learned about Onoki from Iwagakure village, who is still galloping on the battlefield at a young age? As a shadow, hide behind people. He enjoys peace. Konoha's ninjas fight less and less. Of course, Bajien will not unilaterally belittle a person. The presence of Sarutobi stabilizes Konoha, and it does. But it's nowhere near the point where Konoha is going to be the strongest. However, he did protect Konoha with his life in the end. When the filming of this title. Contradictory politicians. This is Sarutobi, guarding the Konoha and limiting the power beyond his control, limiting its growth. Probably if these contents appeared in textbooks, then Bajien would still be happy to read them. Sadly, that will never happen. Losing the desire to learn, Bajien lay on the table and started a new practice. Refine chakra. There are not many courses on the first day of the freshman. After a simple adjustment to the process, it is already afternoon. The afternoon sun always has a desire to drive people to sleep, but Hachiken and Itachi came to the training ground. How does it feel to be a student? After suffocating for a sip of wine, Bajien spit out the strong smell of alcohol on Itachi's face, and then asked with a smile. It's boring, I don't feel like I have gained much from practicing with you on the training ground. Shaking his head, Itachi gave the answer that Bajien expected. Well, use that trick tomorrow, it's a waste of time at school. 8 Swords nodded. Understood. If you don't understand it, it must sound a bit confusing. After all, that was the only way of dialogue between Hachiken and Itachi. That trick. Naturally Shadow Clone. Although the two of them don't have much chakra, they won't be able to exert much combat power with Shadow Clone, but it's enough to deal with Chunin's class teacher. As long as you don't do it, it won't leak. Itachi is a genius. This trick, he is indeed a master. This is the case in the original book. A few days after school started, he began to use Shadow Clone to learn, and went to the training ground to practice. Slowly stroking his Zanpakuto, Bajien suddenly frowned and looked at the big tree not far behind him. There, a delicate purple shoe was exposed. Has it been discovered? The girl with the knife bit her lip and stood up. Long purple hair and stubborn eyes. Azuki Yugao. Stunning girl. Is something wrong? Hachiken put down Zanpakuto and asked calmly. Your sword is not a decoration, is it? Taking a deep breath, the sword-wielding girl asked her own question. In the second dimension, knives and swords are collectively referred to as swords. Just like White Fang, some people call him unparalleled swordsmanship, while others say it is swordsmanship. It's the same reason, but the name is different. Is there a problem? Facing the girl's question, Bajian chuckled lightly and shook his knife. He thought that no one would trouble him too quickly because of Itachi's words before he was really familiar with it. Obviously, he was wrong. My name is Izuki Yugao, please enlighten me. Swish. The long sword was drawn, and the girl challenged with her own sword. She has to prove herself. ... The fifth is delivered. More will be added later. Ask for a ticket poor. Chapter 19. When holding the knife, he transformed into a beast. The atmosphere is a little weird. The spring breeze was blowing, bringing with it the only cool air left in Yudong. The girl suddenly couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't bear the calm gaze of the young man with the wine gourd. He couldn't bear it either, the schadenfreude expression of the young man with decrees next to him. What is he gloating about? Also, why is Yi Bajian so calm? Is it because she's a woman that she doesn't care about her own challenges? She has practiced swordsmanship since childhood. No matter how hard or tired she is, she insists on her dream. Vowing to become a master of the Konoha swordsmanship. Although he is young, he has been able to play the Konoha style of swordsmanship well. Even if the other party is Uchiha Itachi, she dares to speak up and challenge. In fact, this is also the purpose of her coming here, but the challenger has changed. The strongest newborn Uchiha Itachi set is also a sword. Based on this alone, she has to find her strength as a sword wielder from the challenge, and also wants to see if her efforts from childhood to adulthood are of any use. Itachi naturally gloated. Challenge the 8 swords. Please. As far as he knows, in this age group, there is only one person who shows swordsmanship so vividly. That is the 8 swords. He had heard of Izuki Yugao, a girl who inherited the Konoha style of swordsmanship, and was also very hard-working since childhood. These, sourced from the information that his father had given him in the morning, might become his rivals at school. But she is by no means an opponent of the 8 swords. Okay, I accept your challenge. After a long time, the depressing atmosphere disappeared, and Bajian nodded slowly and closed his eyes. Zanpakudo with one hand. Hilt. Blade. Knife mansions. Out of the sheath, unpretentious. But at this moment, Izuki Yugao's expression changed drastically. The young man slowly opened his eyes. She seemed to have seen a rebellious beast. Fierce and fierce. It is different from the free and easy before holding the knife. He stroked the scabbard with his hand, and he had already entered the state. That is a realm that only those who use swords can understand. What he has in his hand is not a knife. Instead, sharp claws extend from the fingertips. Is this my opponent? I'm actually challenging such a person. Even if it is the father, he does not have such a terrible temperament. Who is he? Who is he? Sweat appeared on his forehead, but Izuki Yugao didn't have the courage to wipe it. He stood there motionless, as if he had lost the strength to resist. Uninteresting. Shaking his head, Bajian withdrew his aura and looked at Itachi. Cultivation. You really are, she's a girl anyway. Throwing the shuriken, Itachi said in tears, be gentle with girls, this is what my mother told me, don't say you don't have a mother and don't know, I'm telling you now. Besides, it's common sense. Yes. Are you so cruel to girls? Although Bajian didn't make a move, this blow was more profound than actually defeating the opponent. That is a means of completely imprinting one's own image on the other's soul. Real suppression. At this moment, Itachi looked at Bajian, like a straight man of steel who only knew how to practice swords. This kid knows shit. Bajian shook his head and smashed the opponent's shuriken back lightly. Hands on or not, the gap is there. If Azuki Yugao can get out of today's blow, her realm in the future will definitely improve a lot. This is for her good. Of course, there is also the possibility that the other party can't bear it and will never recover. But the 8 swords are still here, and so is Azuki Yugao. All she needed was a word of encouragement when she was desperate. All 8 swords know everything. The practice begins. Azuki Yugao still stood there in a daze, maintaining the action of asking for advice. The boy and Itachi have already started their own cultivation. I don't know how long it took, but the girl who stood still suddenly trembled. It seemed that she was awakened by the cold air, or the crazy beast in her fantasy rushed towards her. At this moment she finally woke up. But the scene in front of her made her even more decadent. Unparalleled shuriken collision style. Whether it was Uchiha Itachi or Yaba Sword, when the two of them sweated and threw shuriken at each other in a terrifying way, the scene was brought into view. She finally understood how far apart she was from them. It's ridiculous that she is actually challenging such a person. Weakly leaned against the tree. She has forgotten the purpose of her coming here. Confused in her heart, she stared straight at the sword in her hand, her eyes dull. Time seems to have passed for a long time. When a hand was put in front of her, Azuki Yugao's eyelashes moved slightly and he slowly raised his head. The weather is not very warm now. A girl who has been standing here for so long is afraid she will get sick. The boy's hands are not big, but he looks very secure. So, I'm just going to relax with Itachi today. Come on, let's go take a bath and go to the cold together. I'm in for a treat. As he said that, he grabbed the girl's hand and walked towards the exit of the training ground under Itachi's dazed eyes. ... Plus the first chapter is delivered. Well, I'm bored when I'm idle, the little author will go to code another chapter. Gone, thank you readers for the flowers. Thank you. Chapter 20 Sword Sang. Pay attention to the 3 bands. Come on, I invite you to take a bath. OMG. How did he say this to a girl? Weasel was stunned. He was completely stunned. After a long time, he sighed. Maybe this is the 8 swords, his friend. The so-called 3 forbidden ninjas are basically useless in the eyes of Bajian. Money, wine, women. Seems to have committed everything except the money. Weakly following behind Bajian, Itachi just stared straight at Bajian's back. He wondered, was his friend really going to do this? Let's take a bubble bath together to ward off the cold. There is nothing wrong with such words between men and men, or between women and women. If it is a man and a woman. This. As expected of you. When Bajian took Azuki Yugao's little hand and really came to the Konoha soup pool, he couldn't help showing his thumb. He came. He really came. Come and invite the girls to take a bath. Fortunately, not those pools that allow shared bathing. But it seems that this is the kind where you can choose a private room. Hard to do. With a solemn expression, Itachi's arm rested heavily on Bajian's shoulder. Jian sang, this is not right, the 3 bands of ninjas. 3 bands. You can't go on like this. As a friend, Itachi felt the need to remind him of 8 swords. If you are addicted to the 3 forbidden ninjas, the consequences could be disastrous. Konoha has precedence, as his mother Uchiha Makoto drew an analogy. Lord Jiraiya, and Lord Tsunade. I could have become a better ninja, but after the 3 bands, I always felt a little weird. Looking at Itachi silently, Bajian was a little distressed. How could he describe his age? The kidney function he should have is still limited, and how can he describe that he was just kindly afraid that the girl would catch a cold before sending her over to take a bath? Let go of me. It seemed that he was uncomfortable with Itachi's eyes, and Azuki Yugao tried to shake off Bajian's hand with a face, but the strength on it was not something she could resist. No, I can only remind you in a low voice. The feeling of being held is the first time. But she is a thin-skinned little girl, and she is really shameless to be led into the Wen Izumi field. He finally broke free from Bajian's palm, and just as he lifted the canvas on the Wen Izumi field that blocked the view outside, Azuki Yugao turned around with a very serious look in his eyes. "I swear, next time, I will never fail to draw my sword in front of you." Swish. The girl took small steps and entered the soup pool. And Itachi standing outside the door was even more shocked. The girl's eyes were firmer than before. Is this the means of the 8 swords? He clearly told Bajian that his actions were cruel to a girl. But in the end, he thought too much. You always think too much. Shaking their heads and pulling Itachi's clothes, the two walked into the Wen Izumi field. A bath after practice will always make people relax involuntarily. There seems to be some discord in Izumi's soup. Jian sang, "Please let go." Jian sang, "Not there." Jian sang, "There's so much nonsense, it's your turn to rub me." Quote. It's hard to imagine what the man who was later honored as the Itachi god went through in the bathhouse. Only Lu Renjia, who was passing by chance, saw the empty eyes of the man and Yuhi's disrespectful face after he came out of it. Heaven and earth conscience, the Uchiha clan has their own Wen Izumi field, inside the clan. And this kind of overly kind bathing method, he has never experienced it. For the first time, it's all like this. Compared to Itachi, Hachiken is a little too comfortable. Leaning on the reclining chair next to him, Bajien took a sip of wine and felt comfortable. It was as if the fatigue brought on by the practice had all disappeared. Jian sang, "I haven't been home since school. I'm afraid my mother will." After wiping it clean, Itachi scratched his head a little embarrassedly. "Although, I would like to continue to stay with Bajien for a while." Although he also knew that when he was with Bajien, it was very easy and he didn't need to think about anything. But, he must go home. "Understood, let's go." Nodding his head, Bajien didn't say much, just patted Itachi on the shoulder. The strength of the opponent's shoulders is limited, but in the future, it will carry a lot of things that don't belong to him, and Bajien has decided to grab some of them and fight them. Probably, this is the friend. Weasel is home. After a short rest, Bajien closed his eyes, and the next second, a fictional image centered on him appeared in his mind. One energy wave after another poured into it. That is, the energy from everyone's soul. When the Zergi Kenpachi template reaches 5% progress, it means that the 8 swords have taken a step closer to the god of death. And death is most sensitive to soul fluctuations. This sense of inspiration is the unique perception mode of the 8 swords in the Hokage world. It's still soaking, huh, woman? Opening his eyes suddenly, Bajien let out a sigh, and just as he was about to leave, he raised his eyebrows, and the figure disappeared instantly. At this time, outside the female soup. Across the layer of wooden boards that blocked the beautiful scenery, a white-haired man with premature aging was sneaking forward. Just when he was about to successfully reach that weak gap, a discordant voice suddenly appeared. "In my mind, people who can be called heroes don't do such things. What do you say, Mr. Huang, who is in the gambling and drug industry?" The white-haired man followed the voice. A teenager wrapped in kabuto's crotch and carrying a wine gourd appeared in front of him. "To be honest, I don't like the name Mr. Huang." After a brief period of astonishment, the bold man stood up, revealing his resolute face. "One of Konoha Sanin. Hiro Jiraiya.